Oh, and welcome back to, can you believe it, a transfer show special. Here on Anfield Index Pro, I'm Trev Downey. I'm joined, of course, by the man with the information, Mr. Dave Davis, to talk about, I can't believe we're doing it, Liverpool in the transfer market, because that's how bad things are. We need to start throwing more money at the wall and hoping some of it sticks. What a weird position we are in, Dave.
It's crazy, isn't it, when you think about how the summer was positioned that, all right, there was sales, there was a net spend element there, you can't deny that, but 450 million plus spent. All the major targets Liverpool wanted landed. All the first choices landed in terms of Isak, Wirtz, all the players we know, Kirkes came in the summer. And now, after all that, I don't think we can undersell this. We watch many a game. We've talked about many a game. We look weak. We look underprepared for this league, doesn't he? It's terrible to say you've spent 450 million and there is a blueprint for beating Liverpool. And it's not a complicated blueprint, is it? Literally, set pieces, get the ball forward, direct and fast. They cannot handle it. Pick up the second balls. It's an easy tactic, isn't it, really? And it's just rinse, repeat for that. So it sounds crazy, as you said, but and people will be flipping with this goal. We can't just spend money. Tell me what other way out of it there is, Trev. Because you can't suddenly you can't put Kirkes on a stretch rack, can't you? You can't make these players bigger in the air, more physical. It's that old quote about you need players that carry the piano and only a few that play it. We've got a lot of players, but who in our team is up for the physical battle? There's a few. There's the likes of, Szoboszlai can mix it a bit, Curtis Jones, but they're very few and far between. And it's pretty damning that you've spent that money. And honestly, even now, we talked about this in the window. Everyone wants to praise people and, the suits and the backroom staff and all these people that landed these targets in the window. If you're going to praise loudly, how loud do you finger point at the same time?
Yeah, and I think there was a massive rush to sort of, lord it over people in terms of, look how well run we are. Look what we got Richie and Mickey doing bits. And it was exciting. Look, let's not lie about it. We were excited, but it was interesting hearing what you're saying there about landing all the major targets. The one that did get away could actually have made a bit of a difference to one of those fragilities you mentioned, which is our defensive weakness. If we had Guehi in, but then likely Joe Gomez would have been gone. And as it turns out, Joe Gomez might as well have gone because he's not getting any games anyway. He just seems to be another one of those ones that the manager doesn't fancy. And, again, we will also have to, hold our hands up and say that whilst we were very happy in the summer, and we don't want to pretend that we've now changed our minds about the transfers we did make, you and I, and basically anyone with a functioning brain, have been saying for many summers now that the thing that this squad really needs is someone to take a Fabinho-style role on. That, of course, would have massively impacted how we've gone this season, because it would be a screen for our defenders that they don't have. And that's another thing that we did not add, and that's not going to be a cheap addition either, especially it's highly unlikely we do anything in January or in that window, because you would get fleeced. And it's still not going to be anything other than a very expensive addition when it comes to September as well. Or, whatever, the summer window as well. So look, man, I don't know. I know our first topic here was the money, the spend. Let's just sort of streamline it into one question, which we both spoke about before our mics went live here. Do you believe that there is any redemption for this squad? Is there any fixing it with the personnel that we have? I'll suggest that from my point of view, the weaknesses that you mentioned, I don't see how they can massively be addressed. We could get the midfield back performing at the levels of early last season. If we could do that, McAllister steps up a gear, Gravenberch steps up a gear, that would be a massive help. If we could get any kind of a settled 4, that would be a help. If we could get Alexander Isak doing the things that we signed him to do, that would be a help. If Mo Salah could be even 50% of the Mo Salah from last year, that would be a help. If there wasn't a blind faith in Cody Gakpo as our only outlet on that left-hand side, and we used Wirtz there for a while, I think that would be a help. So I do see fixes. It's not like we have this embarrassment of riches in terms of good players, but the overall sort of issues, I'm not sure if they can be necessarily fixed with the personnel that we have. Obviously, there's a far better performing 11 that can be put out there. But to ask you that question, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Do you believe that we have the wherewithal to address the weaknesses, the shortcomings in the squad, within the squad itself, by, moving the deck chairs into the Titanic?
Yeah, I think you can paper over cracks a little bit at the moment. I don't think that a lot of people have said this. Is Arne Slot coming up with answers to a few of the questions we're asking? I think it's not really happening. You do kind of wonder, like, he keeps doing the same thing again and again and expecting a different result, whereas we could all see that there's issues. And like you said, selection, formation. I mean, formation, we had like a 4-4-2 against Frankfurt, a specific style where Salah went out, didn't he? And then we tried it with a variance of asking Wirtz to almost play 2 positions against Brentford. So I think we can be smarter with the tactics, with the setups. Again, things as well like you bought 2 flying fullbacks. There's no other way of really describing them in the summer, can't you? And now you're asking one to be attached at Virgil van Dijk's hip and be a passer. That's not playing to his strengths, okay? One's got a hamstring injury, but you can sort of tailor the team and make adjustments that way. No doubt about it at all. I think as well, Trev, for all the attacking options, you'd like a bit of a focus on defence as well, wouldn't you, at the moment? Because we're so open and porous. Just really, focus on that, a real defensive stability and set pieces. That there are things you can do. You definitely won't solve them all, though, with the personnel. That's going to take cold, hard cash. There's no two ways about it. And it's interesting because people have started to talk about Arne Slot's future, and even Romano there saying about, everyone's really behind Arne Slot. They're 100% convinced Arne Slot is the best manager to handle this situation. Doing a bit of digging on that, because obviously people are throwing this up and some saying it's outrageous. Club are 100% behind Arne Slot, but FSG are behind Arne Slot on the premise that he's in touch for the Champions League places. Because that's the minimum, isn't it, in terms of like the revenue, the business model, and how it works. If that becomes a risk, no one's quite certain what will happen. The only thing ultimately, Trev, and you're right to say this is part of the premise, January is a nightmare of a market for Liverpool. Because everyone knows they're spenders, and they will spend. They've proved that in the summer now. Everyone knows exactly what they need. There's no doubt what Liverpool need to add physicality in different areas of the team. And January's already a month where you pay a premium. And then the fourth element to that is probably Liverpool. I want, from doing a bit of digging on this, if this squad doesn't get any additions in January, what's the realistic expectation for this squad right now? That's a big question, isn't it? Is this squad good enough right now to hit the minimum objective of the Champions League? And if it's not, there's probably a decision to make in January, isn't there?
Here's an interesting question, because you had the picture of the boys shaking hands, and you've mentioned the fact that the manager's future has been up for question, because this is, I won't say it's unprecedented. We had a few bad blips under Klopp as well, but it is sort of, it's I think it's more the nature of the way we've been losing games, and the nature of the performances is making people ask questions. Sensible people are asking the question, is it possible that he could have maybe lost this group? But that can happen just as quick as the bonding can happen, and they've had this traumatic experience as well into the bargain, and it could just be that some people have started to drift, and I don't know if there's any fixing that once it starts, because you look at the group of players we have, Dave, and honestly, I'm sure a lot of coaches would be rubbing their hands together at the thought of getting them and molding them into some sort of a team with a philosophy that they think would work. So we shouldn't be writing off the season if we can't get recruits in January. I don't think that's I think that would be. I think that'd be letting everybody off the hook, to be fair, because we didn't want to hear talk about transition seasons last year. So I don't want to hear one now just because we've added new players. That kind of talk to me is it's very defeatist. It's like the lads who are delighted to be in the conversation during the Klopp years. You know, lads who didn't mind losing Champions League finals, or lads who didn't mind being out there losing leagues by a point.
Yeah.
You know, wasn't it great to be in the running? No, shit. You want to win. That's all this club is about, has always been about. One of the key elements of last year's league win, was the form of Mohamed Salah. An all-time season the guy had. Outrageous. He, like Slot, is the focus of most of the conversation now because he is our high-profile player. And the minute he stops saving Liverpool's bacon, the chat begins. What should we do about Salah? How do we handle a Salah question? Not like the other 10 lads who've been equally awful, but all the focus goes on him. Now, I'm sure he expects it, but people are also amateur body language experts, and they're saying that he looks out of sorts, that he looks as if he's not his usual chirpy, happy self. People start reading things in when the form goes to the wall in the way it has, Dave. I mean, what's your feel on where this Salah situation is? Because he did famously sign that contract.
Yeah.
And you wonder, a couple more months of things like this. Well, there was even the little removal of Liverpool mentions and headers from his social media profiles that people were doing their detective work on as well. I don't know. What's your feel for where things are with this?
Yeah, it is the big question at the moment, because it's always going to be, you're talking about a player that should have won the Ballon d'Or last year, was unbelievably good, insane, signed a huge deal, which no one can have revisionism with this. We were all delighted with. We're thinking, brilliant, we've got the man. And then this season, his woes have kind of been symbolic of how the team's been, hasn't it? It's not been a good season. Listen, he's my favourite player. I adore the man. But, you know, you'd have to be blind to literally ignore what you see. He is struggling in many games. There's times where the trade-off with Mo Salah isn't working. And when I say trade-off, we know how it works. Mo Salah doesn't do much defending because, like last season, he'll score all the goals and get all the assists. And that's what we'll take. Just get the ball to Mo Salah. That's been the tactic, and we'll make it work from there. It's not quite working. And I'm not saying I agree with this, but as you mentioned, what we were talking before, weren't we, before the cameras went live, the saddest thing you can say right now is not that it's true, but you can make an argument that Liverpool's strongest team doesn't include Mo Salah. Just the fact you can even make that argument in terms of, you know, having everyone press in the shape. Not that I'm saying I'm endorsing that, but it's the fact it's even in the conversation. Being honest, Trev, doing a bit of digging on this, and the GOAT man himself, Indy Callier, he tweeted, didn't he, earlier today, people saw this, Saudi clubs are planning a summer move for Mo Salah. And you kind of wonder with this, like, is this Indy just being Indy in the nicest way and doing what he sometimes does to fan the flames as he likes to, you know, not a dig at all. Trev, doing a bit of digging, asking around, been trying to. A lot of people are saying, you know, that we speak to with the various screenshots, don't dismiss this. This could well be like, if it carries on, it's something that was talked about with the contract negotiations when they were first done originally. How was it going to work with this 2-year renewal? Something that, you know, both parties would keep an eye on at the end of the first year. It genuinely, it feels like sacrilege to say, but I think there's something in this as we're being told. And also at the same time, again, this feels even bigger sacrilege to say. It just seems logical if it's not working out with Mo Salah, because you are paying him my favourite player, but ultimate top dollar, aren't you? Absolute huge top dollar. So you pay that, you do the trade-off with the lack of defending for what you get in return. So if you're not getting that in return from a business perspective, you've got a big call to make, haven't you?
And unlike with the Trent scenario, because he signed the deal, the club would be in a situation where there could be an awful lot of money coming towards them, which would very much help maybe with the recruitment of some of the players we mentioned earlier on. I'm very, very sad to see that a member of our chat panel is bored because we've rehashed this issue to death. Let's talk solutions. But this is a transfer show, pal. And obviously as well, you might have missed the bit where we went through and I walked through all the various things that we could be getting from the team. And we would like to see the solutions coming from the current squad, because that's the only choice we have until the window opens in January. And realistically speaking, for the reasons they've outlined, the only reason we have for any hope for the rest of the season as well, because recruitment in January is going to be both difficult and massively expensive. So